I saw a picture of what I later came to find out was my great-grandfather. So when I saw the picture, I kind of did a double take and got chills because it was a picture of a man that looked like every man on my mother's side of the family. And it simply said, boat steerer, bark wanderer, 1921. I'm Dr. Akeia de Barros Gomes, William E. Cook Vice President of the American Institute for Maritime Studies at Mystic Seaport Museum, and this is my sea story. My career path has been all over the place, and I think ending up here at Mystic Seaport makes it make sense, made it come full circle. One of my first gigs as an archaeologist was working on the Mashantucket Pequot Reservation. And the really great thing about that is I was doing a history that is not my own history, and I was being taught how to handle that. How do you respectfully do history when it's not your story, and how do you validate it? After that, I spent some time in the Caribbean as an archaeologist and fell in love with the Rastafarian community down there and decided that I wanted to take off my archaeologist hat and become an anthropologist and study with that Rastafarian community. I woke up every day to the ocean and worked alongside the fishermen and fisherwomen. That really shaped my experience while I was there. After that, I got a job teaching in Boston and would do service learning trips. One of those trips was to West Africa, specifically Ghana, Togo, and Benin. And what an experience. Learning the histories of the people there, learning about spirituality, learning about the centrality of waterways in the ocean, and learning my own history while I was there. I was a college professor for about 10 years and decided I wanted a change in my career, and a job at the New Bedford Whaling Museum became available. Although I had very little to no experience working in museums and almost no experience with maritime histories and telling maritime stories, I got the job. And the amazing thing about getting that job is on one of my first projects for the museum, I was looking through photographs in the collection to put together a panel for a Cultures of Whaling exhibition. And I saw a picture of what I later came to find out was my great-grandfather. And so I used this amazing resource called whalinghistory.org. And I figured the timing was about right. 1921 is about when my family came over from Cape Verde. So I put in my great-grandfather's name, and what came back was that Philip de Barros Gomes was the boat steerer on the Bark Wanderer in 1921. So that's when I knew it was a picture of him. And it just made my story of my family in the ocean feel kind of complete, and that this is what I was meant to do for a living. So I find out that the picture is my great-grandfather, and I very excitedly went to other curators and the staff at the Whaling Museum and said, "You won't believe this." And the librarian, who was also the photo archivist, said, "Well, he must have been the photographer's muse because I have about 30 pictures of that guy." And he showed me pictures of my great-grandfather not only steering the boat, but throwing a harpoon, all of these amazing pictures of my great-grandfather out at sea. As part of my job at the New Bedford Whaling Museum, we assisted a museum on São Nicolau in Cabo Verde in putting together a whaling exhibition that discussed the enduring connections between New Bedford and New England in general and the Cape Verdean community in Cabo Verde itself. I went for the first time to Cabo Verde in November of 2017 to help facilitate that exhibition. And when I looked at my great-grandfather's immigration paperwork, November of 1917 is when he got to New Bedford. Almost 100 years to the day, I made a return trip to Cabo Verde and was the first person in my family to do that. My favorite vessel is the Charles W. Morgan, and I think it has a soft spot in my heart because I have been told it is the sister ship of the whaling vessel that my great-grandfather was on, the Wanderer. Just being on the Morgan and going below deck, Seeing how my great-grandfather came to this country and what he did for a living, it's just an amazing vessel. It's the only surviving wooden whale ship that exists today. I love walking by it. I love seeing it, as I navigate the campus, and I absolutely love being on board. I came to Mystic Seaport Museum in 2021 to lead a project that focused on Black and Indigenous maritime histories. And it was like this light bulb moment. It was the perfect job for me, because what it made me realize was that my work in Mashantucket, my work in the Caribbean, my work in Central America, my work in West Africa, I'd never thought about it as a maritime experience. But if you think about history and the history here in New England, Africa, the Caribbean are all tied together by Atlantic networks. And so all of that work I had done was really part of this larger Black and Indigenous maritime story. And I had never thought of the story in that way. And so putting together this exhibition with Black and Indigenous community members really felt like coming home. Doing this work is very personally and professionally rewarding for me. I feel like it connects very much to my discovery of that family history and really reinforces for me that this is where I'm meant to be. The one thing I hope people get from my story is that there are multiple ways of looking at the ocean and waterways. I think from my own African descended perspective, and being a person who very much values African spirituality and worldview, that view of the ocean as sacred, that view of water as a life force, that view of the ocean as a place of creation, and also as a place that, although it resulted in colonization and the transportation of people who were enslaved, it later became one of the only ways that men of color could make a good living. So there is that duality to the sea. But I think within African and Indigenous spirituality, there was always a vision of that duality, because all of life is about birth, life, death, and rebirth. And so I don't necessarily need people to believe all of that about the ocean, but maybe just gaining an appreciation of that perspective of the ocean and waterways, I think, is really important.